37 minutes past the hour. Daybreak USA continues on this Tuesday. It is the last day of November 2010. November is National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And we have been talking all month long about areas in which you can be both informed and also encouraged, because one of the things that has been a staple of the conversation this month is the fact that, in particular, caregivers who are challenged with taking care of those who have been stricken with this. For many, it's not just emotional and psychological, but there's a spiritual approach that they take to this problem, which helps them to deal with what is oftentimes something that can be a challenge for any of us. But I think that one of the things that we're excited to be able to talk about this morning with respects caregivers, Alzheimer's, and ways in which somebody out there listening to us this morning can be edified by what it is we're about to share is a conversation that includes somebody that we spoke to earlier this month. He's the president of the Greater Dallas chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. John Gilchrist, welcome back.
Thank you, Scott. Good to be here.
It's good to have you with us. And I get the Potter's Touch just about every Sunday when I can.
Okay.
The Potter's House is one of the largest churches in America, and it is pastored by somebody we've been privileged and pleased to have had on this program a few times, Bishop T.D. Jakes, but the pastor of pastors, the one that kind of keeps it all together, is Senior Pastor Lawrence Robinson. Welcome to Daybreak USA.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It is our pleasure to have you. It is. And when we talk about caregivers, she was a primary caregiver for her mom, who eventually died with Alzheimer's. But Pat Bailey is here to share a message of edification and hope for those who are dealing with just what it is that you dealt with. Pat, welcome.
Thank you very much. We're very glad to be here.
I'd like to start with you. As we've talked this month, and as we've talked with a number of people who have been in the position you were in, dealing with a loved one who has Alzheimer's, how did you manage your life in an effort to try and provide care to somebody whom you saw gradually slipping away from you?
You know, what's important about the management of any process is an opportunity to actually create a plan. Initially, I felt as if I was dropped into a situation of which I had no control. But as an executive, I found the need to quickly try and get ahead of the disease. So one of the things that I share with folks often through the company I built as a result of my mom's illness is an opportunity to plan and plan and plan. You plan with your children. You plan relative to your marriage. You must plan aging in your life. And with that being said, I began to do the research to understand what my expectations could be with the disease, and then look for the care, because I knew she was going to have points of deterioration. So the last aspect of the planning process, by the way, is prayer.
Absolutely.
I really shouldn't even say the last. It is what you should start with. Unfortunately, it started later in my process than what it should. And now I'm really encouraged to tell everyone, if you put prayer in the front of the process, you will be surprised as what God will deliver for you as opportunities to really make a difference in your parent life.
When we talk to people who have a traditional view of sickness and death, and again, I oftentimes say on this program, it's not an idea of forcing an ideology or a belief on anybody, but it works for me. So I feel as though, I just feel inclined to share. And Pastor Robinson, the Potter's House, this past Sunday, had a program called Suffering in Silence. Give us a portion of what it was that this symposium, this opportunity to talk about Alzheimer's, gave the Potter's House.
We had a wonderful program this past Sunday, along with Pat Bailey, Greg Zarbo, and Dr. Stephanie Johnson from Washington, D.C. The important thing that we did at this program was that we were able to give our community information, along with, as we know, definitely needing prayer. One of the things in our churches that we shout, we hear the word, but it's important that we be able to take some practical things back with us. And when I began to be informed about this disease, I found out that our community was not informed properly. And the southern sector, in our African American, Hispanic communities. It wasn't, and I felt imperative in talking with our bishop and the exec team about having this symposium on last Sunday to inform our constituents that they need to know this information. And that's what helped turn and get you prepared. The planning that Pat just mentioned is getting all the right information, learning the 10 early signs of detections, and knowing what to do, changing our eating, changing our health. And so this information session is what we had on this past Sunday, and it was real good. We had a great time at this meeting.
Isn't it ironic that with all of the secular knowledge that's out there, there is a passage in the Word that says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge."
Yes.
You know, let's talk about knowledge, John Gilchrist. You, as president of the Greater Dallas chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, this month in particular, have been trying to share as much information as you can with people not only here in North Texas but across the nation. And as Pastor Robinson pointed out, among ethnic groups in this country, African Americans and Hispanics, there is a greater prevalence of Alzheimer's within those
Scott,
ethnic
unfortunately,
communities.
there is. African Americans have a 2 times greater likelihood than Caucasians to develop Alzheimer's at some point in their lives, and Hispanics have about a 1.5 times greater likelihood. While the researchers are still not sure about the genetic component of that, they do believe that that diet and lifestyle, just as hypertension and diabetes are more prevalent in the African American and Hispanic populations, those tend to have a greater risk factor to develop Alzheimer's disease. But to touch on what Pastor Robinson and Pat were talking about in terms of reaching out and getting plugged in, I mean, there's obviously the emotional, the physical damage done by Alzheimer's, not just to the patient but also to the caregiver.
Yes.
And it's important that we find ways to lift up and empower that caregiver to support them in the very important work that they do. They need to get plugged into support groups. They need to get plugged into classes. They need to realize that they don't go through this journey alone, that you've got great resources such as the Potter's House. You've got a great resource in the Alzheimer's Association that is there 24/7. So we look to really work with partners, great organizations such as Potter's House that will spread the word out in terms of you don't go through this alone. You
know what? When we come back, we're going to talk about how that partnership is spreading the word, is giving people great information and hope.
Yes.
We'll do that with John Gilchrist of the Greater Dallas chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, the pastor of pastors, Pastor Lawrence Robinson from the Potter's House, and Pat Bailey, Dallas businesswoman and